What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this week's episode of Walking 90. I'm your host, as always, Elliot Barr, and it's joining me is my good man, as always, Kyle. Kyle, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. It's the weather's finally turned around. My kid has spring break, so
there's not a snow apocalypse up there anymore, is it?
No, at least not by me.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure. And also, if you don't recognize this lovely face with the beautiful accent, we are joined tonight by the head coach of Chattanooga Red Wolves, Mr. Scott Mackenzie. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, guys. Thank you. I'm excited to be here and talk a bit of footy.
Yeah, of course. Well, look, I mean, this show is more than footy. I don't know if you're familiar with our show, but we deal in the vibes of chaos.
Yeah.
There's other show that's talk about the tactics, all that stuff. But I want to ask you this. If you are allowed to, what is your go-to chicken wing order? Like, what sauce do you put on your chicken wings?
All right, well, don't judge me. I only do boneless. So, and then I'm going, I don't know if I have a go-to, but I'm going spicy. Something hot, something hot.
Something hot. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you like a celery and carrots guy as well, or you just leave that?
You got the cheese, ranch, blue cheese.
Just the meat, mate. Just the meat.
Just the meat. All right. Another question. I love hearing people's response to this, but growing up, what is the one movie that you watch that completely terrified you as a kid that you can't watch anymore?
Do you remember a movie called Signs? I think it was called Signs, the alien one.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in that movie where kids watching the TV and an alien walks past the like a window, and there's a window that looks the same in the house I grew up in. And so for years, I had to run past that every time it went off. So there you go, Signs.
So do you still get freaked out now? Like if someone just mentioned that, you're just like, yeah, I'm good.
That's a vivid memory. I don't think I've ever watched that movie again. So.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
I can't judge because mine is Twister. Like the OG one from the 90s.
Really?
Oh.
That was terrifying. When you're 5 years old and you live somewhere where there are tornadoes, I'm like, oh, that's going to happen to me.
True. I ain't gonna lie. I have a paralyzing fear of clowns because of that movie. I refuse to go to a circus. Like I told my wife when we have kids, like if the kids want to go to the circus, it's on them. I'm not taking them. They're on their own. I refuse to go.
There you go.
But yeah, all right, cool. That's cool to know. So coach, let's kind of start off in your back history a little bit. It's definitely Chattanooga Red Wolves. You got the interim head coaching job there in 2023. What was your mindset going into role? How was that whole day for you? You know, you're kind of in the back role, and then you become the main man during that summertime. And with that, how did you evolve over the months leading to you becoming the permanent manager of Chattanooga Red Wolves?
Yeah, I mean, if I look back on it, it's kind of a whirlwind time. So I was obviously prior to where I am now, I was still in the organization. I worked as our League Two coach, but out in Utah, and they're not exactly next to each other, you know. And we were just wrapping up what was really good League Two season. We'd gone undefeated in conference play, and we're about to head out to play in playoffs. And unfortunate circumstances, really. The Ziggy, who had been hired at the start of the year for whatever reason, moves on. And then Jimmy Weekly, who was in charge for the interim, ends up having a health issue and has to just step down for a minute. And so I get the call and I'm like, whoa, okay, crazy. But that's why we get into coaching. I think was why most people get into coaching. It's certainly why I wanted to work in an organization that had different steps in it, League Two through League One, etc. To get an opportunity like that. And my mindset really coming in was, I don't know, whether it will be, at the time, I didn't know whether it'd be a game, 2 games, 3 games, didn't really know what that'd look like, but I just wanted to make the most of it. Obviously, showcase my abilities with as a football coach and see where it went. Just wanted to know that I did the best with it, and obviously thought I did a good enough job to steady the ship a little bit, and here we are.
Yeah, and I was going to say, how do you adjust to that? Where you, as you mentioned, you're out in Utah, you have this whole situation, and then kind of have to at the last second just drop everything and go. How do you adjust to that, or what's that process like, or how do you handle that change that happens all of a sudden?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's probably a better question to ask my wife, and how did she adapt to it?
Yeah, that's the most important one.
That's the biggest challenge. But no, look, it was just one of those things. Everything at that point was moving so quickly. You just get on with it. Focus on So my first week, we played 3 games. We went. I came out to Chattanooga. We went to Fresno, California. Flew back to Chattanooga. Went to Madison, Wisconsin. Flew back to Chattanooga and played Richmond at home. So I didn't really have time to, I just had to go. I had to be in, plan training, kind of get an idea of what we wanted to do, game plan, coach a game, go back, review, game plan, training, et cetera. And then eventually, obviously, started to, as that season carried on, got my feet under myself, wife and kids came out and all that kind of stuff. But it was, like I say, it was just a unexpected, crazy period.
Yeah. No, I imagine everything was pretty much a whirlwind for you there. So, during this time as well, like you mentioned, this team had gone through almost 2 head coaches. We saw how things went under Ziggy, and then Coach Jimmy went on there. For you, what were some of the key changes or foundations you would say, you wanted to lay down culturally or tactically once you got the full-time job? So, how important was it for you to establish trust and buy-in from the players, or being hey, look, this guy doesn't fit what I particularly want. Now let's transition, because it's a huge difference between going from squad building in League 2 to League 1.
Yeah. So I mean, the fun bit about coming in the middle of a season for someone who coaches and really, in terms of what I do, puts the biggest amount of value I think I hold is my ability on the grass as an actual coach. And you just get, at that point, it was, here's all the players. This is, middle of the season. We're not going out and signing other players. Make what you can out of what you've got. Make the best of that. And that's a fun challenge in itself. And there were a good group of players. I think arguably had underperformed a little bit. And really, we just wanted to come in, and I think by the end of that season or towards the run-in, we wanted to become more exciting, wanted to become more of a threat in front of goal. Certainly wanted the fan base to be able to see a team that goes to war on Saturdays, that runs and runs and wants to play high octane, high tempo football. And I think we did that, and towards the end of that season, we're one of the more informed teams in the league. Obviously, it was little too late there, but and then big learning curve, big difference to go through that actual roster build as we went into 2024. And I think it's fair to say we got at least in terms of profiles and type of play, we got a fair bit wrong there. I mean, look, the results last year, we can't hide them. And so then we take it into 25 here, and it was a case of, no, we have to get, first and foremost, you build a culture based on hard work, based on commitment, based on people that are ambitious, and based on people that want to enjoy what they do every day and come into work with a smile on the face, because that positivity will go a long way. So
yeah, well, definitely. Let me ask you this question, kind of late going back. If you could go back to that summer of 2023 and talk to yourself, almost like that, I don't know if you see the movie Interstellar where Matthew McConaughey is kind of banging on the window to his past self. What's the one piece of advice you would give to your past self back in 2023, knowing what you know now and having gone through the season of 2024 and starting out this year?
It's a good question. I think I'd have just I mean, the 2023 bit, I don't know, I'd have gone back and given myself a ton of advice, because I think it was moving so fast, and we just grabbed the reins and got a hold of it. Yeah. Go back into the off season post that, I certainly would have gone back and be like, hey, be more deliberate, be more clear, be more direct in what you want to be. take the time to make sure that like character references really, really matter. And there's no assumption that that everyone is going to fit within what you want. And the world of League One football and professional football at this level is its own unique beast. And so I think the other piece of advice I give myself is to find people you trust a lot sooner and lean on them a lot quicker.
Okay. God, I mean, there's a lot. Is there anyone that like shaped your ideology of being a manager? Like, is anyone that when you were growing up or any like mentored you, you was just like, I like what he's implementing, whether it's tactically or man management, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's influenced, and I think there's people that in your life that you know up close and personal, either coming through and playing. I played for some good coaches and whatnot. My dad is coached for a long time and has a lot of influence in terms of the way he interacts with players and that kind of stuff. And then obviously, you know, from afar, you admire people at the top of their game. So like, you know, you look at like a head coach like a Jurgen Klopp, and you look at the type of football first and foremost. It's exciting, it's front foot, it was high energy stuff. But then you look at the relationship that he has with the players that play for him, and the way, you know, people talk about him and the influence that he has had on them. I think you take scope from people like that, and just lots of different places. But yeah.
All right.
I was going to say, is there a player where it could be a player that you coach or a player that someone in the league where you're just like, if I could just clone them and have 11 of them on the field? Is there a player that sticks out to you, or someone that's like, I wish I had him for another year or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a few. There's and I've got a name in my mind. I'm not going to say it publicly because
Fair enough.
Because he's no longer with us. But I'm just going to leave it at that, and maybe in a couple of weeks you read between the lines on it. But those type of players, the ones who you watch play, and you're like, he's dying out there on the field, like he'll giving everything to it. The warriors, the ones who are up for a tackle, the ones who want to get box to box, the ones who want to do, you know, that do all the little things that make the big differences. That's how I tell players all the time. If you want to play for me and you want to be successful with me, first and foremost, it's not about ability. It's about your work rate. It's about your desire. It's about how you come in every day and you commit to what you do. It's like it's the intangible stuff and the culture pieces. Mm-hmm. And if you're good with that, if you do all the little things, make big differences, if you're a hard worker, then we get along really well. And, you know, if you're what I would call a bluffer or a pretender, then we tend not to get along. And that's a clear line that I'm happy with drawing in my life. I want to be surrounded by people who give everything that they have to what they do. And I don't really want to waste my time on people who go into things, you know, half cast or half, you know, if that makes sense. So
yeah, no, that 100% makes sense. I mean, you're putting your time and energy into it to try to get guys to where they want to get to, and you don't want to waste it on that. So, I mean, that kind of goes perfectly to my next question about, like, if I read it correctly, you're outside of head coach, you're also one of the few head coaches in USL League One that's also a technical director as well.
Yeah.
Wearing that technical director title, how do you balance the day-to-day coach's duties with the broader vision of the club's development pipeline? Because Chattanooga Red Wolves are in a unique spot, because it's not like, and correct me if I'm wrong, the League Two team isn't directly in Chattanooga. It's in Utah, which is in a whole nother time zone. So how do you balance that? Because we've seen it a lot. Like, I dealing with my Richmond Kickers about them not really going too much into the transfer market, but them relying a little bit more on bringing youth in. How do you balance that, especially with the distance between the two team and the senior squad?
Yeah. So I think the way I look at my job title is I've got two major areas of focus. I've got the immediate future, you know, Friday night, a week on Friday, we go to Charlotte. And then I've got the long-term future. What do we look like in a year, 2 years, 3 years? And that can be like anything from what terms do we have in a contract, making sure that our roster build is balanced in that we have enough contract control on players so we don't have massive turnover every year, but then trickles down into, like you mentioned. So I think we have, and have arguably proven, as a USL program, whether we're talking about the Utah part of it or the Chattanooga part of it, everything in our organization, we've done a really good job of producing and bringing players through the pipeline into the first team system, and then everything that trickles down from that, colleges, et cetera. And really on that part of it, my job's just to make sure there's synergy in it, so that our first team's connected to the youth club here in Chattanooga, and we've done a lot to make sure that happens. Now we're at the point where all the staff with our first team all have direct roles within our academy program there in Chattanooga. We have our Utah academy program. I'm in constant communication and oversee that with David, who runs it out there. And we've got a couple of players out here now, Garrett Morris being an example of that, who've come through that program. Previously, Omar Gomez, Johnny Guadarrama have come through that program, and last year Blake Oberhauser as well. So it's I've got to make sure we have a good game plan and a great training week going into games, and I've got to make sure that we have got plans in place to make sure we're sustainable as a football the football side of the business, specifically for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and we're not scrambling at the end of each year that there's a career direction and a clear mission we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, no, I understand that a lot. Kyle, you got something?
Yeah, I was just about to say, obviously, with this season, you had a couple matches. One of them being recently the U.S. Open Cup. It was definitely a tough battle, but won on penalties. So, does this start of the season give you, what has been your biggest takeaway from the start of the season so far?
I don't want to be disparaging about where we were collectively, and I say we because it's me plus the players we brought in, the whole culture, the whole environment. But it's just calling a spade to say that we weren't very good. And I think our fan base, often the frustration was that they would look out and see a team that maybe they weren't fully invested in what they were doing. That's on me ultimately. I take the brunt and the blame for that. But collectively, we weren't where we needed to be. It was certainly, and there's lots of reasons why, we certainly weren't where it needed to be. So I want to make sure that the one thing that we go into is when teams watch us play this year, or when we come off and reflect on a performance, whether we win, whether we tie, whether we obviously not ideally, but sometimes we'll lose, we can come off and say we gave everything that we could. We exerted our best efforts in there to get the result. And along the first 2 games, obviously going to Naples, we've gone, I think we were okay. I don't think we were great, but I think we were gritty. I think we were resilient. I think we were in a position where we could have won the game. 1-1, penalty, Naples are a good side. We take points on the road, happy with that. And then, I think the Open Cup game, we played 90 minutes with 10 men. And it's amateur versus pro. But I said to the lads before, I think the Open Cup games are the hardest games of the year. And you see that in the results around the league the same night. I believe Greenville went to penalties too, and I believe 1 or 2 others got knocked out, and a few others went to extra time.
You don't got to talk about that. We'll stay on topic.
Look, I was going to say, it was a great time for me on Thursdays.
Whatever.
But, so what he showed me, though, is this group, they're very resilient, they're very gritty. We're not always going to have the best. We'll have good and bad footballing performances, but you're always going to get a whole lot of fight out of them. And that's what this club should be built on, this blue-collar working class mentality,
Yeah, I mean, having watched 2 games so far this year, that's one thing that's really stood out to me. That I think I've been more impressed with regardless to how it was last year. It's a lot of grit in this team. Like they don't care about. I'll put it to you like this: you guys don't care about the statistics. It's like, yo, we can win the fight. Like we can win the fist fight, and that's what it seems like this team is really built on. Is like really making games gritty and not slowing them down, but like really making them physical. And it seems like that's lending it to the kind of football you guys want to play out there. We'll focus on the first match. I gotta ask you, what was your impression when that goal went in against FC Naples?
Our goal?
Yeah.
Yes.
What was your impression?
I need to know. Omar's got the quality to do things like that. I'm not just saying this. That is a predetermined outcome. That is a routine and a predetermined outcome. Now, does he make connections like that every time? No, because if he does, he wouldn't be playing for me in League One, right? But he does have that occasional. I mean, more than occasional. He has a wand of a left foot. I think it caught everyone off guard, and and we love the goals. So
he caught me off guard because I was like, oh. Now unfortunately the game ended in a draw. Didn't go the way how you wanted it to. I'm pretty sure you guys would have loved to come away with the 3 points there. I will ask you this: the last 2 games you guys played has been red cards.
Yeah.
How are you working on? We've talked about the aggression in a good way. How do you dial that back so it's not like, hey guys, we're not hurting ourselves and putting ourselves behind the 8 ball? You don't want to get accustomed to playing with just a man down in every game.
No, look, it's got to be a controlled aggression. It's got to be controlled competitiveness, and the Toby John Hope red card in the Naples game, he deserves it. It is a red card, but it's a reaction, and I'm not condoning it in any way. It deserves a red card, deserves a suspension. And we've had that conversation, me and him, and he'll have to learn from it. But it is a reaction. He does get shoved, and then he gets dragged away, and then he's just lost his head at that point. Mm-hmm. He's a grown man, and he has to be able to control those emotions and put the needs of the team ahead of the instant reaction, the human reaction that most of us have had at some point in our lives. And then look, Garrett Morris, the one the other night. He should deal with the ball before it bounces, but no one's telling me that's a red card in a million years.
Okay. Fair enough.
And then obviously you're going to have a very heated rivalry derby coming up against Chattanooga FC in the Open Cup in the next round. I feel like, how do you try, you've talked about having that more controlled aggression. So is that something you're going to really emphasize for a match that's going to be this big and between the players and the fans?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, everyone's excited about it. The players, going into it, it's the first time ever. I think there's a lot of buzz around it, and I'm hoping there'll be a big crowd, and that big crowd will lead into our home opener. Then just a couple of days later at our place, but yeah, I think we have to go in. You have to be up for it. You have to be up for a metaphorical fight, not a literal fight. You have to be up there, and you have to win your battles and win your moments. And you win more moments in the game, you tend to come away with the result. But it has to, as you say, it has to be controlled. And we are going to have to get the balance right between getting a group of lads who are up for it and are willing to go to war, but at the same time are going to be strategic about how they go and win that war. But these are the kind of games that everyone involved in football wants to be involved in. There'll be a lot of eyes on it. It's a good chance for us to showcase who we are.
No, it's very rare that, especially here in U.S. soccer, you get like an inner city derby. There's very few that stick out, and I think, like you said, that's the one that everyone's going to be paying attention to. How do you kind of curtail the attention to your players? Because, like you said, you got a game on Friday night against a very proven Charlotte Independent squad. There's proven history between those two clubs there, but then be ready for this derby coming, because the intensity, and it's almost going to feel like the weight of the match. Like, how do you make sure that it doesn't get to your players and get them out of their zone?
Yeah, I think we have to. the way we look at our goals, we go week by week, goal by goal. So each week has a goal, and obviously our goal this week is related to Charlotte. And the moment the Charlotte game ends, we'll say yes or no, did we achieve that goal? And then we'll move on to obviously Wednesday night in the Open Cup, and we'll have a very set goal for what that looks like too. And we'll obviously at the post of that, we'll reflect on it. Were we successful? Were we not? And we'll go back and set another goal. And so we just attack it week to week. I think to one of your previous questions, one of the areas we can't look too far ahead. We've got to be very much, we all know where we want to be. All these lads that play for us right now here, they all want to move up. They're young. Most of them are young. They're hungry. They're ambitious. They want bigger contracts. They want to play at high levels, etc., etc. We as a club, we want to win, and we want to win at the highest level. That doesn't need to be said out loud. We need to keep our focus on, well, what's the process to get there?
Yeah.
To be able to play well against CFC on Wednesday, we've got to come out of Friday with a good performance, and obviously, ideally, points on the road. And so we've got our sight set on Charlotte. We know CFC's coming. We know doing well against Charlotte will put us in the best position possible to do well against CFC. Do well against CFC, we know that will put us in the best position possible to then put in a performance in front of our fans at home on the Saturday evening.
Yeah, most definitely.
And, you earlier talked about, making sure to keep the fans engaged, get them to understand it. And we talked about this derby. So what are some of the things that you're trying to do to kind of get the fans and the community really involved and invested in your club?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I've just tried to be very, very open to our fan base and available, frankly. Obviously, one of our major areas of, I guess, community outreach is through our youth club or our academy. And so I spend a good amount of my time there. I obviously don't coach within it, but I'll walk the fields. I'll make sure I'm around the players a lot. And a lot of those families form some of our fan base. So we do that. But beyond that, again, it's just I like to think that I have, since I've come in, made myself very available, very open. We know that we don't exist without a quality fan base. No one wants to play in front of empty stands. We want to play in front of full stands, and we, at least what I've tried to do is make sure that we express gratitude and towards them, and best way to do that is to be very open with my time.
Yeah. So one last thing on the derby. I mean, it's interesting because we haven't seen it on a lower league level where this is like the game that everyone's pretty much been waiting for it.
Yeah.
We've seen it on higher levels with New York and, the Red Bulls, or LA with Galaxy FC and whatnot. We haven't seen it in this environment, and given we know the history behind these two clubs, so we won't dive into that. But as for fans, like, how is your relationship with the Chattanooga Red Wolves fan base? How are they talking about it and clamoring about it? Like, are they like, yo, like, we have to win this game, we have to show, because it's like ideology differences, like within the local community, evolved since you've been the head coach? And how important is that connection to shaping the identity of the Red Wolves, your connection with the fan base there?
Yeah, I think, well, I don't think I know. I think our fans are excited about it. I think they are desperate for us to show up and put in a performance. I think we as a group in our locker room are very, very aware of that. And I think we do listen to that noise that comes from our fan base, and we want to go make them proud. We know the history here. I think it's well documented, the rivalry that exists.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be nice finally for that rivalry to play out in an actual football game.
Look, trust me, it would be interesting to watch. It's just to see how that go. I might have to put that one up on the big screen there and whatnot. I mean, let me ask you this, because this is a unique question, because I've always wondered this. Is there an overlap between fans? Like, do you see not Charlotte. Do you see Chattanooga FC fans wearing Red Wolves stuffs, vice versa? Or is it very much, I am Red Wolves, I don't I don't wear blue and white. I am Chattanooga FC. I don't wear red and white. Like, is it like that?
Yeah, look, I do think it is like that. I think there's the portion of the fan base, the more like invested, hardcore, like I'm Red Wolves, I'm CSC, and they are. I mean, again, I can only really comment on the Red Wolves side of it because that's the part of the community that I'm directly involved in. But I think there are those diehard that does look a little bit more like you might see in Europe or other countries where this is my club, I wear the colours, I bleed for the colours, etc., etc. I'm pretty certain there's people that turn up and go to both games as well. The reality is we live in the United States of America.
Yeah.
Even though we Chattanooga Red Wolves are a founding League One club, we're still a baby as a football club. The other team are still a baby as a football club in the grand scheme of things. And so it's not like we've got these generations upon generations in there. So the reality is, I think there's certainly a bit of both. There's the people who have adopted football culture and said, "No, this is me, and I don't like the other guys," and vice versa. There's almost certainly the people who say, "You know what, going out and watching football on a Saturday night and having a beer is a good time," and probably do a little bit of both. But yeah.
Understood. Kyle? Okay. So before we wrap up, Coach, I'll actually the final question, and we can talk about your long-term vision. Now that you had a full preseason in your belt, you guys played 2 games in the Open Cup, and the season started. What's your vision for this team over the next year? Or definitely, I wouldn't say the next year. By the end of the season, I won't ask you like where you guys want to finish because, of course, you say you want to lift the trophy up at the end of the year. But for you, like, what are some of the metrics you want to see from the team to let you know, hey, we are improving and things are getting better? Finishing out.
Yeah, I think obviously this year is about making sure that we are, competitive in everything we do. And obviously that in terms of like a direct metric and what we look at, we have to move up in the league table in terms of the last 2 years and finishes. We want to put the club back in a playoff spot and back competing for postseason honors. And that'd be your tangible metrics. We want to start making clear jumps in that direction starting this year. But we want to re-engage. I've mentioned this multiple times. We want to re-engage our fans in going that they look at this group and say they are out there playing their hearts out for us. They are out there giving everything to the club, to the badge, to the fan base, and building an identity around that. Again, you mentioned it a little bit, but we do want to be known as a team that is, I don't want teams coming in and going, you know what, night off at the Chattanooga Red Wolves. I want them to say the opposite. I want them to come in and say worst night of the year at the Chattanooga Red Wolves. I want teams to hate playing us. I want them to go, this is one of the worst nights of the year because these guys are up for it. They will not stop running. They like a tackle, but they can play a bit as well, and I would like to build, again, an identity that's based on hard work, commitment, enthusiasm, and joy. And I guess the last little bit I tie into that as well is growth. We want to see growth in the league table. We want to see growth in our players. I think we want to see growth in our staff, and just make sure the momentum's there and the enthusiasm around the club and the city's there.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, Coach, I just want to say thank you for really taking the time of your day. We know you had a busy week and everything like that. Glad we were able to have this interview. Before we wrap up, is there anything you wish we would have asked you or talked to you about?
Nah, I think. Look, I was hoping you'd ask me about what my what the most scary movie I watched as a kid was, and you did it. So.
No, those are like I told you. Those are the important details.
Wait. I do have a question. We need to get back to this question. We have not done this, but do you have a pregame ritual? Whether it's a meal or like a ritual that you have. We've had some ridiculous answers in the past, so I want to know what yours is.
We've had some wild ones.
Nah, I don't. I really don't. I have certain things that I get into routines a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like I'll have my coaching gear on and I'll get changed before. But if I decide one day randomly I'm just going to put what I'm going to wear on the sideline on and I don't put the coaching gear on at all, it doesn't bother me. Or like I like to change the shoes that I wear. Like, but if I don't do it, it doesn't bother me. I'm just not a superstitious person. I don't tie in a lot of that. So,
all right. So now that we're here, I gotta ask this because in League One, there are some coaches that are very enthusiastic with their dress. You know, Darren wears all black. Iman last year with the thick wool sweater.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
You got anything like that? Like, are you? Because AV Alta's coach came to Richmond in a full suit, turtleneck and sweater, like he had dinner date at 9:30. You got anything like that? He probably did.
I think I like to keep it. I like to keep it fairly fresh. I'll change it up a fair bit. I mean, look, I like to think I dress well. That could be debatable. I've heard people behind me suggest otherwise in the stands, you know. But I don't have a go-to. I just decide, I think that'll look good. I'm going to wear that.
All right, no, I feel you on that. Well, Coach,
maybe that's what I need to do is find a brand and a trademark, like you said, like Darren, and go with it and stick with it and be known for.
Hey, you can see.
I feel like you got to go like full sweat, like sweat jacket, like the track jacket and sweatpants. Like you're ready to step on the field and play yourself. Maybe that's what you got to do.
Yeah, it might be the one.
All right. Oh, there is one last question. I know we're supposed to be wrapping this up, but I meant to ask you this. The U.S. Open Cup game. Granted, you guys had a small bench. What was your thought process when you had to summon your goalkeeper as a midfielder? And then have him score a goal in a PK shootout.
So we went into that game. It's just football. We've got a couple of injuries, so we're a little bit short. And then unfortunately in the game, we pick up an injury early on with Omar Hernandez, which we're going, oh, okay. It is what it is. It happens. Yeah. And then we go in the extra time. And so we actually looked at the bench and go, when we look at penalties, talk about who's a good ball striker, who's a confident ball striker. And we'd obviously taken Omar Hernandez off, Johnny Philippe had then come off. And there's a few others. And we went, Jason Smith is, as a goalkeeper or just as a player, left foot, right foot, as good a ball striker as there is in the league. Like very good left foot, very good right foot. So we were going to throw him on to take a penalty with hopefully 1 minute to go.
Yeah.
I did not anticipate him playing 15 minutes. But you know what? I've known Jason a minute. He's a great kid. I knew he would do what he did, which is come on, do his best. He won 3 headers. He worked hard and he scored a penalty. And I guess that's not bad for your second ever pro game, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah, for real. Is he trying to convince you to play head coach?
I think he's trying to convince me never to do that to him.
He's like, that was fun. I don't want to do it.
Now, look, Ricardo, who obviously played in goal that game, would be on the sideline being like, hey, put me in. I think Jason's like, nope, I'm good. Let me play in goal. So,
all right. I had to get the story on that because that was one of the highlights of US Open Cup weekend and whatnot. That was a great moment. But Coach, we just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day for being on this podcast. Wish you the best of luck going forward and everything like that, man.
No, I appreciate it, guys. It's been a good time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. With that being said, listeners, we just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day for listening to our podcast. With that being said, make sure you give us a follow on Blue Sky at Walkin90 and on YouTube at Walkin90 as well. With that being said, for Coach Scott, Kyle, and myself, we will holler at you guys next time. Be easy and be safe as always.